clothes without owners because unexpectedly their lives have been cut short. Those who escape death continuously live on the edge, ready to run to stay alive.
More than 50 people are burning right now.
And even when they are able to escape, they lose their homes, property, means of livelihood, and are left so devastated that some wish they were not even alive because of the memory they will live with for the rest of their lives.
It's only 3 of us that start packing the dead bodies. The ones that are broken, the ones that are dead already, all we pack them together to the Jankwano. And the other ones, the ones who can pack, we pack them to Jankwano. And the other ones who are dead, we left them there.
The reality of the proverbial sleeping with one eye open has been the living condition of many residents in the northern parts of Nigeria, especially in the northeastern states of Adamawa, Taraba, Gombe, Yobe, Bauchi, and Borno. This has been the story of the northern state of Nigeria since the insurgents Boko Haram confidently demonstrated what would later be known as their method of protesting the death of their spiritual leader Muhammad Yusuf in July 2009 and spreading their religious belief. Some of the attacks which stand out in the timeline in various states of Nigeria include the bombing of the United Nations building in Abuja in August 2011, the Abuja Police Headquarters, Baga massacre in Borno State, during which about 187 were killed, Yobe school shooting, attack of Gambarungala in Borno State, during which about 300 lives were lost, a multiple attack in Kano City in January 2012, which left hundreds dead, including Channels television reporter Eneche Akogu. The adoption of over 300 girls from Chibok Secondary School, among others. The total figure of people killed between 2009 till date by the insurgent has been difficult to capture, but estimates place it within 11,000 range. As a result of their penetration, as much as 33 local government areas in Borno, Adamawa and Yobe states were under the control of Boko Haram at the time. Residents in areas like Bama, Dikwa, Ngala and Goza in Borno state, Madagali, Michika, Mubi in Adamawa state.
Some of them have to run down to Yola capital, at least with their children.
With the effect of the insurgents and people moving into other areas, it means more people are going to share facilities that were not adequate anyway, and therefore it created further despondency among our people.
Those who could not escape lived under conditions which were similar to slavery.
Folma ba am kar ma da sauru am kar ma da so nan duma folma ruya na ba da am kar da sauru uda ta san jikin zai manan den bara da kyoro. Okay.
Everyone, irrespective of social class, had a taste of the unpleasant experience.
That I nearly lost my daughter. She got missing for about 24 hours and she trekked for nearly 40 kilometers in the bush in the night without torchlight. That was very devastating.
Although this was going on mostly in the northeastern parts of the country, Nigerians residents in other parts of the country were affected.
So in our business, for example, when it comes to the Northeast, we just dabble in and we quickly come out, but we're not really creating the value that we can create in other parts of the country. And this is a bit of a challenge. I'd like, as a mother, to be able to take my children across all Nigeria and see how beautiful it is. With the present economic situation, we have to start thinking internally and doing travel. Unfortunately, the Northeast is not the place to go.
Apart from the personal impacts, the country as a whole has been affected economically and otherwise. The 2013 report by the World Investment shows that foreign direct investment flow into Nigeria dropped by almost 21% in just 1 year, from $8.9 billion in 2011 to $7 billion in 2012, a $1.9 billion loss. Internally, there's been a rush out of the northeastern region for fear of attacks. Banks have been attacked and survivors closed down, not just because of insecurity, but because of decrease in economic activities. Trade with neighboring countries, which happens within borders, although informal, have also suffered huge setback because of the closure. The security challenge also means that more government resources, which would have been channeled to developmental projects, would be sunk into purchase of weapons and empowering the security personnel. For instance, in 2012, about 922 billion naira was allocated to security. It increased to over 950 billion naira in 2013. And the next year, it was up to over 968 billion naira. Huge sums of money that could have been used for capital projects. Like minds believe that the path to overcome this challenge is to take steps backward and trace the root cause that birthed Boko Haram in Nigeria. Some factors, they say, has been growing over the years.
You look at child mortality, child morbidity, maternal mortality. If you look at health, general health indices, including life expectancy in the Northeast, is almost like 10 years shorter than in other parts of the country. When you look at education, literacy and numeracy among children is among the worst in the Northeast region. This is not new. It's been there for some time.
Climate change has also been linked.
Bodies of water on which human beings depend in the Northeast vanished. That Lake Chad over 50 years lost about 90% of its water and shrank when it shrank from about 25,000 square kilometers to 2,500 square kilometers. And our government did nothing. There was no adaptation, there was no care. And so populations dependent on this body of water and bodies of water associated with it were displaced by climate change. They were displaced. These were pastoralists, these were farmers, these were fisher persons, these were traders. They were displaced. And they were not just displaced in Nigeria, they were displaced in Chad, they were displaced in Cameroon, they were displaced in parts of Niger. When you look around those places affected by the drying up of Lake Chad, you'll see that every part of those places, without exclusion, is suffering some form of upsurging violence. Why? Because the lives that were displaced and rendered now dependent had to find things. And what happened? There were people ready to radicalize young people who no longer had skills or had jobs.
Other causes, according to the observation of some Nigerians, include a wide gap between the rich and the poor, a result of economic stagnation over the years, disconnect between the government and the governed, global terror epidemic, collapse of public education, distortion of religious realities, and many more. Although these factors and more still exist in the region, a change in tactics of the army as directed by the President Muhammadu Buhari has resulted in less attacks by the insurgent group. Local government areas have been recaptured, although there are still some which is under contention, such as Madagali and Goza, thereby bringing up the argument whether Nigeria can confidently say it is in a post-insurgency period.
Do you believe that?
I believe that insurgency has been largely contained.
There are still incidents happening. We're still losing uniformed assets, admittedly not like before.
Even residents in the region have mixed perspective when asked if insurgency can be said to be over.
Battle for insurgency as an invisible fight between an enemy you know to a target that he knows cannot be too certain as to when it will end.
Well, certainly we are in a post-insurgency period when you view the whole challenges in the context of the ground realities.
Whatever camp the argument ends, the people of the Northeast live with the reality of blown bridges which link communities and allow for trade such as this one between Uba and Baza in Michika local government area in Adamawa State.
It was on 18 December that the Boko Haram come and break it when army are trying to come and pass on the bridge.
A replica of Gada Bridge in Wuragandi village in Madagali local government area. At the entrance of Wuragandi village, which is just behind me, Gada Bridge is another symbol of the attack of Boko Haram in this part of the country. Needless to say, this is an important bridge because it connects two communities. And so now what the people have to do is they now have a makeshift bridge that is made up of trees, cut down trees, and sand, which of course is very risky. But the danger of this local construction is obvious. Apart from the bridge, buildings, both residential with its content and business places where activities came to an abrupt end, still tell the tales of bomb blast. One of the linked towns, Shua, is just beginning to get alive as the latest attack here was in June 2016. Shua Market, which used to operate on Sundays, is now a drinking spot for the men. Further in the community, destroyed homes, bullet holes on the walls, and stories of loss.
Up to now, I never see my father because they have already taken my father. And my grandmother, during this Boko Haram, she have already, I never see her up to now.
Destroyed facilities continue in neighboring Gulak, still in Madagali local government area. Gulak Cottage Hospital, although part of it has been renovated, EUIN Church was also affected, although members are adamant about using the building. The area is still under the close watch of the military as danger still seems too close. They operate with a curfew which begins at 5 p.m. till 6 a.m. for pedestrians and 7 a.m. for vehicular movement. But this is still a better situation compared to Gubia village, which is further ahead and still has no occupant as it's not been cleared by the military. In all, the state government says it would need about 200 billion naira to reconstruct and rehabilitate private residences and other properties destroyed by the sect in 11 of the 21 local government areas of the state. They also say that over 600,000 of its indigents are still displaced. Already, the state government says it's begun rebuilding affected schools and government institutions in various local government areas, but asks for assistance from the federal government. Health experts are asking that attention be given to rebuilding lives and minds, especially the ones which may have been radicalized. Already, the United Nations Women is working with girls and women who are part of the over 2,000, as estimated by Amnesty International, who were abducted by Boko Haram. Gombe, the capital of the state, is wearing the face of normalcy. Pedestrians walk without fear or unnecessary haste, and so are vehicular movement. In the main market, buyers and sellers have gathered. The marks from bullets and splashed blood still remind everyone of the unfortunate event, although no physical reminder is needed.
The bomb blast has happened day before Salah. around 5:30. We just sit down there and we hear the bomb blast bomb. Everybody here lay down, dead bodies, people running away. And the worst thing happened to me is in that day. I also lost my father, that's Alay Suleiman Saidu. We rushed him to the hospital, later died.
And although it was a one-day incident, at least here in Gombe Market, the effect of the insurgency has been constantly negative. The downward trend in the economic activities of the state was further influenced by a similar incident in Dadinkuwa Road Motor Park, where commuters can travel to Mubi, Maiduguri, Gubja and Biu, as well as other intrastate routes. Yobe State had its fair share of attacks, the most heartbreaking being the mass shooting in a boarding school in July 2013 in Mamudo village. The number of students confirmed dead was 42, although reports say about 100 were missing. There was also the attack on the Federal Government College Burning Yadi, where 21 students were killed, making the total number of major attacks on schools to 4.
The federal government first, they gave out all the students of that former school to other federal government colleges around so that they would continue their education if you are interested. But some parents decided they don't want to go, and then, like I said, we were sent into private schools. But the federal government has been very helpful because they have shown concern by giving us option of sending our kids to other federal government colleges around here.
The consequences of this destruction include hundreds of children losing out of the opportunity to be educated, a major area of concern to many Nigerians. Destroyed communication facilities, roads, means of livelihoods and home. Life is just beginning to return to public places like the market, and it's going on side by side with the destroyed facilities. As the people of Yobe begin to settle back into normal life, the state government gathers lessons from the dark period.
That we have neglected the security of this country, and intelligence we should enhance intelligence gathering and try to quickly nip it at the bud as soon as we see something coming out.
The state government says if the federal government spends about 10 to 20 billion naira in the state, most of the destruction will be replaced, and over 3,000 internally displaced persons would return home and resume their normal lives. In Bauchi State, police stations were under attack in 2010. Both Azare and Township police stations were touched. Both still wear the deformed look, although a part of the Katagum Area Command has been repaired for use. The state also recorded prison break where about 700 prisoners escaped.
It has affected the economy of the state. We have tourist attractions in the state, but because of the information, filtering out, quite a number of people have refused to come to Yankari, Osmo Park, and other tourist locations in the state. So that has really affected the economy of the state.
For lasting solution, the governor has asked that critical issues like poverty and ignorance in the region be given serious attention. Borno State was not as lucky as its neighbors. It bore the brunt of the determination of Boko Haram sect to take over Nigeria's territory. At the peak of the troubled times, over 20 of the 27 local government areas in the state was under the control of the sect. Their style, as in other states, was destroy properties, both public and private investment, homes, communication facilities, source of water and livelihood. They all fell to their attacks. While they moved in to settle in areas like Dikwa, Kalabarige, Goza, Damboa, Ngala, these became home to the terrorists.
Assessment conducted by the World Bank and the federal government, destructions worth $5.6 billion were wrecked by the Boko Haram in Borno. About 28 high schools, 2 tertiary institutions of learning, about 206 health facilities, and out of the total stock of homes in Borno, 30% of the homes were destroyed by the Boko Haram.
And when gradually steady victory was being registered and territories of Nigeria returned to the people, it was a source of celebration, but not enough reason for indigents to return home, and a large part of the area still lie unoccupied. However, in areas like Ngala, the presence of the military men and persuasion from the government is building confidence in members of the community to return home, but there are obvious needs. So the work of rebuilding the Northeast begins, and one obvious fact is that there are many phases of need and the burden is heavy to bear, a burden which the federal government has placed at about $9 trillion for the rehabilitation and reconstruction of broken infrastructure. Already, global partners, which include World Bank, United Nations, and the European Union, have pledged $800 million to support the efforts of the government. This is different from the $2.1 billion interest-free loan from the World Bank. As the battle subsides and the rebuilding process begins, some Nigerians have begun showing concern about what will become of the civilian JTF.
It is my understanding that those who are in civilian JTF are being classified, inventoried, so that at the end of the service, valuable service that they are rendering to the nation, they are not just thrown into the society to go and fend for themselves. And given the reconstruction efforts, I believe that, not only their knowledge of the terrain, but also some of the skills that they might have had before the insurgency can be utilized. And that's part of the critical component of reconstruction. The civilian JTF people, how are they reintegrated back into the society so that they can meaningfully be engaged as productive members of the society.
They are Nigerians living in Nigeria, but in conditions which are heartbreaking. Some of them fled their homes with only all they had on them just to stay alive. Or for some others, they've had to leave after their homes have been destroyed and normalcy disrupted. This is the type of life that they live now. Instead of feeding themselves, they have to wait until food gets to them from any generous and thoughtful individual, government, or organization. They queue for hours for taps that hardly run. They change their clothes only when donations have been made to them. They only try to support these donations with the age-long practice of making their traditional cap with the hope that one of the visitors on the camp will patronize them. Their health care is left in the hands of others, available only when the medical personnel and drugs can get across the hurdle of insecurity to reach them. They live in makeshift shelter, which is so fragile that it cannot protect them against harsh weather conditions. All this are apart from the psychological and emotional pain that they have to live with. This is the unfortunate condition which many indigenes of Adamawa, Taraba, Gombe, Yobe, Bauchi and Borno states have to survive in.
Muna nan dai muna jira aka sai muka ga sun kewaye mu. Aka shiga mana. In dai mijinki yana gida, in har kirga kin furta yana gida to za a neme shi a kashe shi. Amma in kin ce baya nan ya riga ya gudu ko da yana ciki din, to ya tsira daga baya zai iya ya san yadda zai yi ya fita. Amma mata ba ruwansu da su, daga baya ne sun koma suna eba mata, daman sai maza ne. Haka aka fitar da mu aka ce za a sa wuta a gidanmu.
While the IDPs are survivors, over 23,000 others have been killed between May 2011 and November 2015. That's according to the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. Over 1,000 have contracted cholera, out of which 18 have died since September 2015, while 7,000 others are missing, many of whom are believed to be forcibly recruited by Boko Haram or exploited and subjected to sexual abuse. Figures released by NEMA for October 2016 shows that there are still a little over 2 million IDPs in the country, about 1.5 million in Borno State and almost 170,000 in Adamawa State. Of this total figure, 93% are below 60 years, 53% are female, and 54% are children.
There is what we call the Humanitarian Coordination Forum. The Humanitarian Coordination Forum is a forum of government agencies, the United Nations, and the civil society in humanitarian. This humanitarian forum, Humanitarian Forum, Coordination Forum, we've been holding it monthly.
In Adamawa State, the government has created 3 official camps to house the over 100,000 displaced persons who have come to the state for refuge.
When we recorded birth, it changes the total population we have. We also, in rare cases, have death, which is inevitable. But the rate of birth supersedes that of death as far as this camp is concerned.
The number continues to fluctuate because the issue of birth is on the increase in all camps in the region.
Fundamentally, what is driving high fertility rate, why people want to have more children, is sometimes because they don't know whether those children will survive or not. If you know that you have 3 children and all those 3 children will be graduates and they will work for Channels TV, then why do you have 20? But because you don't know, because of high child mortality, high child mobility, sometimes parents hedge in having more. Secondly, girls' child education and having girls in school and keeping them long enough in school before taking them out to get married, or even when they are married, ensuring that they continue their education is very key, because first they are empowered, secondly they delay when they start to have children or have children more spaced, and thirdly they will contribute to the economic development of the region.
And the consequences is inadequate food and malnourished individuals. From the records of UNICEF, in Borno State alone, about 250,000 children are severely malnourished and about 49,000 are at high risk of dying before the end of 2016, except urgent steps are taken to boost the nutrition of the people. With time running out, UNICEF has asked for contribution from its partners to the tune of $55.5 million to deal with the situation. But unfortunately, only $23 million has been donated, leaving a huge deficit. Another functioning system on Fufure camp is the school, which was opened in December 2015. 6 classes have been created: pre-primary, primary 1, 2, which has 2 classes, 3 and 4. They are shared into classes based on their intellectual abilities as coordinated by NEMA.
Got support from the Military Education Corps. They gave us six military officers, Education Corps officers to support us in the education. And then we got in contact with the State Primary Education Board in Fufure camp here, and they supported us with 5 teachers. And amongst the IDPs, we were able to identify about 6 of them that had NC or diploma, which we also recruited to be teachers. And about 3 of us NEMA staff also support them in mentoring the children.
5-year-old Fatima Garba is a member of the Primary 1 class and found a voice here. In Yobe State, the camps are emptying out as the state government has already begun resettlement, while the army returns control of captured territories to the civilians. However, this is not to say that all needs have been met. While the different state governments adopt a strategy which they deem most appropriate to handle the IDP situation, other factors are calling for attention, including the condition of over 165,000 Nigerians who are still taking refuge in neighboring countries, and this is after 17,000 have returned from Cameroon. The experience of the period has also been proven to have adverse effects on the psychology of the young ones. The exposure to violence could mean that violence is their only approach to dealing with life's issues.
I don't think that the solution is military only, because by definition you can win a battle, but you never win a war if you do not address the root causes of a conflict. So I really believe that in addition to this, of course, this fight against the criminals, you also have to engage with the entire society of the Northeast, and I think many people in the Northeast have legitimate grievances against who, I don't know, against the federal state, against the system. They feel abandoned sometimes. When we are talking about reconstruction of the Northeast, sometimes I wonder if it is a reconstruction or a construction, because as we know, the North in general and the Northeast in particular, seen from the center, is very far away, and maybe has not been given enough attention in terms of social services.
Another consequences of the insurgency has been road closure. Routes linking Borno to Adamawa State and even connecting local government areas like Ngala, which shares border with Cameroon, has had to be blocked. This, indigents say, is drastically affecting their business. And those in the fore of the battle to win back Nigerian territory have been in the news recently. Some members of the Nigerian army say they've been on the battlefield for a long period without relief. One of them, who refused to speak on camera, says he's been away for his family for 7 years now. He was first in Jos before he was posted to the northeast. Others say their operation allowance has been inconsistent.
While we are injured here, they will give you February, they will not give you March, they will give you April, they will not give you June.
These are the issues which have caught the attention of members of Class of 2015 of the Nigeria Leadership Initiative, a group of accomplished Nigerians who are senior fellows of the initiative and have gone through specialized program.
The insurgency in the Northeast About 15 million people have been adversely impacted. About 25,000, if not more, have died since the insurgency started, and we have over 2 million people displaced. But in addition to that, if you look at all the indices, human and economic development indices for the Northeast, it's way behind other geopolitical zones in Nigeria. What's the consequence of that? The consequence of that is that it poses a major threat, not only to national development, but also to security of the country. This was the premise that made our senior fellows to say we must make our own contribution to what is going on in the Northeast.
This solution, according to the NLI, will be a collaboration between the public and private sector and demands critical planning.
Stakeholders that are interested, the governors of the states and the people of the states, the federal government, the civil society, development agencies, and the list goes on. The question is, can we use, these either this presidential group that has been endorsed by the government to say that there will be some kind of clearinghouse, even though you have other people that will come in to bring capacity there, so that we have better coordination. What is needed is to understand what each party is doing and to pull it in, because people are doing different things, right? And then to make sure that we understand what the gaps are so we can address those gaps, right? And also to make sure that the plan is consistent with the results that we seek.
The children and the future are of great interest to the group, but this doesn't have to be solved by Nigerians.
Some of the children should be placed in schools abroad. Nigeria stood up, in the times of needs of many other African countries, and we should reach out because, many of them have schools, there are ways that they can be rehabilitated. But it's something that is, the scale of the problem is beyond Nigeria alone to solve. And we should use tried and tested methods of managing these types of crises.
They also intend to deal with some of the questions about the management of donations made towards the upkeep of the IDPs.
You want accountability. Those who are in charge should be held accountable. Who did you give the bags of rice to? We want to see those people who are taking it. If we send money for drugs, we want to see those who are using the medication that we have sent. It's just holding people accountable for what they do. And accountability is not just in the top layer of government. It starts from the bottom. Everybody, the man who had to take the bag of rice there, the man who had to distribute water, should be held accountable. We want to see the people that are doing it. And I think once we hold people accountable, then all that will be issues of the past.
For Professor Chidi Odinkalu, the plan and efforts should go beyond the Northeast and seek ways to unite Nigeria.
As a country, we're not always fair to one another. We don't always care about one another. And we don't always make the effort to exercise curiosity about one another, positive curiosity, to understand. And we tend to criminalize difference. If you're not a member of my church or my mosque or my ethnic group or my village or my network, you don't belong, you're evil. We assign a terrible name to you, or we assign a pejorative to you. And so when things are happening in parts of the country that we don't historically understand, we tend to criminalize even suffering. So, in the Niger Delta, there is militancy. We don't want to understand what is happening there. They're all evil. In the Southeast, there is Biafra happening. Oh, that's the only thing they know how to do in that place, kidnap and Biafra. In the North Central, indigenous and settler, yes, that must be it. All of them are mass murderers. In the, that's the North Central. In the Northeast, it's Boko Haram. We told you, they are all fundamentalists. All they do is kill and eat people. And amidst all of this, the people suffering, you have hundreds killed, massacred, buried alive, and in mass graves in Zaria. Oh, those Shiites, they are terrorists. All these people are Nigerians who are suffering. And the effort in this documentary is actually quite simple, to begin a process of enabling us to care, to understand mutually.
The government has also expanded its scope in dealing with the reconstruction and rehabilitation in the region to involve ministries and other agencies.
When the military intervention started for about 2 years, the government now realized that there was a need to have a soft approach to what the military were doing and are still doing. That is to say that there should be the carrot and stick approach in solving the security challenges in the Northeast. So the federal government deemed it fit to now develop or create this initiative to intervene in providing succor and immediate relief to the victims of the insurgency in the Northeast. Ours is an initiative that has come to quickly intervene and to alleviate the suffering of people. Now, on funding, we are funded through the appropriation. We are 100% funded by the federal government through budgetary appropriation by the National Assembly.
All this, according to the government, is in conjunction with the United States Agency for International Development, working with figures released by the agency that as of September 2016, $102.8 million is required for food and $37.8 million has been donated as of October 2016. For other needs, $4.3 million for education, $10.7 million for nutrition, and $4.5 million for camp and shelter. On the part of the European Union, €7 billion, a far cry from the 1.80 trillion naira which NEMA proposes as the required amount for a total reconstruction of the region. But beyond the material needs, they call for attention to issues like de-radicalization and reintegration of the affected individuals. And so the class of 2015 of the Nigeria Leadership Initiative has made the call, inviting everyone to rebuild the Northeast, feed the children, empower the youth by giving them the opportunity to acquire skills that will make them contributors to the Nigerian economy. Will you take up that challenge?